A brave 19-year-old American in uniform leaves to fight for his country and never returns. Nearly 70 years later, he's coming home to loved ones in Arlington. And we talk to the man who buried his friend so long ago. Several residents have their say about a plan to move Arlington's first marijuana facility to Mass Ave in the Heights. Add to their stock, recreational pot. Animals on parade, all in an effort to bring attention to a treasured Arlington landmark and to advocate wildlife preservation. And God comes to the Regent Theatre, and he saw that it was good. Stage and screen legend Ed Asner plays a cantankerous deity who boldly steps between the red and the blue in a political performance where laughter is indeed the best medicine.
From McLennan Park to Spy Pond, from Poets Corner to the Mystic River, we have Arlington covered. We're your neighbors, a friend you can turn to. This is ACMi News. After nearly 70 years of uncertainty, a Korean War veteran has finally come home to loved ones in Arlington. Hello, I'm Eleni Kaminas.
And I'm Michael Cerullo. He's given full military honors for his valor in America's so-called forgotten war, a conflict that, for better or worse, helped shape the modern world.
And now, his fellow former POW who actually buried him in North Korea shares his heartfelt story with ACMi's Brenda Mahoney.
George is home. He's home. That's what counts.
Present arms!
It's been called the Forgotten War. But people are remembering Sergeant George Chapani, a 19-year-old Korean War POW. His remains recently identified and brought to family in Arlington.
Ready? Yep.
For 90-year-old Cliff Benoit, the memories of Chapani forever with him. He's the one who buried him after he died as a fellow prisoner of war 68 years ago.
We dug a grave on the side of a hill in some farmer's lot. It was winter, and winters was sometimes 20 below. We covered him with stones, covered his body with a tarp, couldn't do anything more. And then the guards walked us back to our camp.
Benoit survived over 2 more years in the camp. At the end of the war, both being from Boston, he visited Chapani's family, descendants of whom made a recent DNA connection to Chapani, buried as one of the unknowns at the National Memorial Cemetery in Hawaii, known as the Punch Bowl. Sergeant Chapani is the second Korean War POW to have his remains come through town in 3 years. He isn't from Arlington, but still townfolk coming out to show that they will not forget the service to his country.
I think it's important to honor everybody who served our country, served in a military, and did their best to protect our freedoms.
I was in the Army in the Korean conflict for 3 of my brothers. He deserves to have a special day here. You know, how they find these bodies and identify them is just fantastic. With our government following through, they don't forget you.
The story coming full circle for the Chapanis and Benoits when both families chose Keith's funeral home, Benoit's wife having died in April.
Lo and behold, they're going to be at Keith's where my mom was, and they mentioned my dad, and they were surprised he was still alive.
Did you know of this story before?
No, I didn't. He never talked about any of this stuff. I guess they just didn't. You can't imagine going through them yourself.
But now, Cliff Benoit, with Chapani's childhood friend, Louis Rosetta, standing by his side, he's able to share the things he never forgot.
A hell of a nice guy.
George was the best.
Adding, he may have lost a friend all those years ago, but he's gained a new one. Brenda Mahoney, ACMi News.
Funeral arrangements are set for this week. According to the Defense POW MIA Accounting Agency, more than 7,500 U.S. military personnel who fought in the Korean War are still unaccounted for, nearly 70 years later.
Arlington's school committee voted last week on a new 2-year contract for Superintendent Kathy Bodie. She is set to retire in 2 years. That's why this go-around, it's not the standard 3-year contract for a school superintendent. The vote was 4-3, and those voting not to give Bodie a 2-year deal said they would agree to a 1-year contract instead. The committee's final vote came only after the panel could not reach a consensus about renewing Bodie's contract late last year.
The Senior Center Central School building at 20 Academy Street will be undergoing some changes beginning this fall. You may recall that this year's town meeting appropriated $8 million to, among other things, create more space on the lower floors for the Council on Aging and Arlington Senior Association. Funds will also go toward upgrading electrical and plumbing throughout the building. Town leaders say renovations will be conducted in phases and should be complete sometime in late 2020. Several programs will be moved to other locations while the upgrade is taking place.
Arlington residents made their opinions known about a marijuana store manager looking to open a new joint in the Heights, one that sells medical and recreational marijuana. I went to the public meeting on June 13th and found out it wasn't so much recreational pot people are concerned about. Get ready for Arlington's first adult medical and recreational pot facility to set up shop along the town's main corridor. Apotheca Incorporated may soon take over what's currently Swifty's Printing on Mass Ave. Apotheca's CEO says the Bay State is ripe for such businesses, and Arlington is no exception.
We're not the first ones that are going to be opening up a recreational dispensary in the Commonwealth, and by the time that this one opens, which will probably be 8 months to a year from now, after we get all our regulatory approvals, you're probably going to see 30 to 40 dispensaries already open.
Apotheca is one of 2 marijuana dispensaries approved by Arlington's Select Board at a meeting in late May. Joseph Lacatch plans to move his operation on Water Street, which currently sells medicinal marijuana only, to the new location. The Cannabis Control Commission required Apotheca to host a community forum where some residents were more concerned over gridlock than they were recreational pot in their community.
I'm concerned that we're going to have constant lines and a lot of traffic coming into the community that we didn't anticipate.
Lacatch says a recent engineering study shows traffic patterns will virtually remain unchanged. He plans to create 13 parking spaces behind the current Swifty building. Apotheca also plans to have on-site security personnel to ensure drivers still act lawfully in the surrounding area. Other Arlingtonians couldn't care less about the traffic.
I don't like the smell of pot. I figure the more pot dispensaries they put, the more the city's just going to stink like pot.
Lacatch says there shouldn't be a smell since everything is prepackaged in Fitchburg and sealed upon arrival to the store. Just one benefit of a business that must meet stringent government guidelines.
There's been an access to this kind of product for decades, and now it's being accessed in a regulatory and safe way, with benefits being given to the greater population.
Apotheca still needs approval from Arlington's Board of Health and the Arlington Redevelopment Board before it can move to Mass Ave. You may recall the Select Board also approved Escar, a marijuana facility looking to set up shop in East Arlington.
At age 89, legendary Ed Asner has done it all. He starred in Pixar's Oscar-winning Best Picture Up, Santa Claus and the Christmas Smash Elf, and he's an 8-time Emmy Award recipient, perhaps best known for his comedic TV character, Lou Grant. This week, he's in Arlington, starring in a play at the Regent Theatre called God Help Us. God Help Us is about a cantankerous God who's none too pleased with what we mortals have done to his creation through our petty political bickering. ACMi News sat down with Mr. Asner as he talked about the play and what drives this one-of-a-kind actor to keep on pleasing his audience.
Welcome to the circus, where the elephants and the donkeys are flinging crap all over my creation. In other words, politics as usual. Tonight I will be the moderator of a great debate.
Look who just got elected. The people spoke. 3 million more voted for Hillary.
Trump won in the Electoral College.
The Electrical College? Is that one of those online schools? Well, it presents a couple who were lovers at one time, but evidently their socio-political feelings and thoughts were too much for them to stay together. God has brought them together again, trying to create a compromise. And he is a comedic God, so he fumbles constantly. It's the greatest activator in the world, showbiz, and I thrive on it. It makes me alive. I feel alive. And it's not an act of desperation, of hanging on before I slip into oblivion. I feel better acting.
Asner says this play speaks to audiences red, blue, and anywhere in between, with one defining message. We must listen to each other so that we can live and laugh together. If you missed Ed Asner this time, he's coming back to the Regent in November for a one-man play.
You know the warm weather has arrived when you can go to Mystic and Chestnut Streets. Arlington's Farmers Market is now open for business until the cool, crisp days of October. And ACMi's citizen journalist, Charlotte Pierce, went to opening day last week to find out what delicacies await us for this year.
Hi everybody, I'm Patsy Kramer. I'm the manager of the Arlington Farmers Market. We've just opened our 22nd season and have the most glorious day for our opening day. We have our usual crew here, a lot of produce vendors, a meat vendor, a fish vendor, pasta vendor, cheese, and this year we're welcoming Kickstand Cafe. Many Arlington people will be familiar with Kickstand. And Emily is coming with cold brew coffee, with juices, teas, sweet things, and we're bringing some of her other delights that those of you that go to Kickstand are familiar with.
It's great to see people in another context. A lot of people are already customers, but I imagine there'll be some people who are new to us. And I've long loved all the farmers here, and I'm looking forward to getting to know them better.
The thing I really like is that it's really a community market. It's the same people are here every year. Everybody knows everybody. The customers are the same. And a lot of markets aren't like that. This just feels like, you know, you come in and you see this. You come in and you see family.
I love coming over here because it's fresh and it's unique. I mean, the pastas are really good. I've bought them before. First time this year, we've got a day that you just can't go without.
We're gonna make a strawberry rhubarb pie for my husband for his Father's Day.
We got ravioli and we're really excited because there's artichoke in it, which is my favorite food of all times, and we usually don't see that around, so I think that's gonna be really good.
I love this market. One of the good things about Arlington is this market. Oh my God, it's so great.
We're also on assistance, so it's really nice that the farmers markets especially are not a part of the SNAP program. So it's really nice that we get to go to get fresh food, fruit and vegetables better than we could get at a better price than any place we could go.
What do you like about the market?
So much variety. So much variety here. This week we have our wine vendor, and then next week we have our hard cider vinegar. So we really got everything covered when it comes to great food and great drink. And hope you'll come and see us every Wednesday all the way through the end of October.
2 to 6:30.
2 to 6:30.
This is part of what makes Arlington a great community.
Yeah.
For more information on the Farmers Market in Arlington, just go to farmersmarketarlington.org. And many thanks to Charlotte Pierce for reporting on the story.
Just ahead on ACMi News, a strange wildlife sighting this week. It's a virtual carnival of the animals. Foxes, dolphins, and dragons, oh my.
And when it comes to the Feast of the East at Capitol Square, we'll show you why there's no place like Arlington. We'll explain when we come back.
If you see news happening in your area and you have a smartphone, you can see it, shoot it, send it. Make sure to hold your phone horizontally and send us your video. Or share your video with us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just look for ACMi News.
It was an absolutely delightful June 15th for East Arlington's 21st annual Feast of the East, where Arlington residents found great food, cool music, and lots of family fun. And it all started with a parade. The colorful Fox Library Parade kicked off at high noon at the Cleveland Street Music Stage. Many folks, including those in the parade, came out to Capitol Square for live music, area cuisine, and other special activities from town businesses. But most of all, these celebrants came to dress up courtesy in part to the Arlington Commission for Arts and Culture.
They did a whole series of workshops at the library and in the schools to create masks, have the kids create masks, and also create the big, huge puppets. I'm just happy to have a moment to put on a black nose and wacky fox-like clothing and lead a parade with my flag. So I had a blast today.
This parade also pays tribute to the marvelous work of the Fox Library and its major contribution to the community. It also celebrates protecting our wildlife in and around Arlington. Thus, the masks you see in the parade. Oliver Hellman and Meredith Clark pick up the story from there.
These are our puppets, and we were just in the Fox Parade.
Yeah.
And
like the two master puppeteers, they call us, because like we make like
I
the big,
really don't think we're master puppeteers.
Well, we like make the big puppets for the parade. So then
you made the big puppets.
Well, you made that one.
Yeah, this one's that. Okay.
The perfect couple. Our thanks to our ACMi interns Eliza Lee and Tyler Valancourt for covering this story.
And that's just the start. All that parading works up quite an appetite. And that's where the Feast of the East Festival comes in. Besides some mad science on the Trinity lawn, there were scores of family-friendly games and activities from A to Z. The Adventure Pub featuring Korean barbecue to pizza samples from ZA, and just about every other Arlington restaurant in between.
For Feast in the East, we have a Korean barbecue taco. It's a bulgogi style flank steak with a Asian style slaw, which is a soy lime vinaigrette on top, a little bit of gochujang, and a little squeeze of lime.
Feast of the East is made possible by the support of the State Cultural Council, the Arlington Cultural District, and several sponsors and participating businesses. The Arlington High School track was jam-packed earlier this month with people racing to fight back against the scourge of cancer. It was the American Cancer Society's Relay for Life. We're told this year's event welcomed roughly 550 participants. The event kicked off at 6 p.m. June 8th, and participants walked the track until 6 a.m. the following day. There were plenty of activities in that 12-hour period to keep attendees occupied. This year's campaign managed to raise more than $125,000, all in the unified effort to lead the fight for a world that is finally free of cancer.
Speaking of relays, another incredible feat from one of Arlington's favorite sons, Ryan Oosting. The Arlington senior ran the top high school mile time in the nation last week. Oosting clocked in at just under 4 minutes and 4 seconds in the men's high performance mile at the Adrian Martinez Classic last week in Concord. ACMi News recently talked to the Arlington High grad and future Stanford University freshman about his future.
Everyone's thinking, you know, you're one of the best runners in the state, if not the best runner in the state. What about the Olympic Games? Do you have your sights set that high?
Yeah. Well, now that I've represented the Netherlands internationally, the Olympics is like the next logical step. And it just depends on how I progress and how things go next year and the next 4 years and potentially after that. It might be a lot to ask for 2020, but 2024 seems like a fairly ideal Olympic year.
And how would you be training for that? Anything different, or you just be the same regiment you've been using the whole time, something you depend on?
Yep, so I'm changing coaches obviously because I'm changing schools. But I trust my coaches both here and at Stanford, and I know that they know what's best for me and can help me, maybe more than I can help myself because they know the sport better than I do. But you know, I trust them, and I'm not going to change anything. You just have to run fast enough to get an Olympic. You have to run a certain time, and then after that, it's up to the country to decide.
I know you can run for either the USA or Netherlands, correct?
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously, I guess your choice would be the US, or does it matter?
It only matters if you've represented that country earlier that year. You can't really switch in one calendar year.
Okay, so would you be representing the Netherlands then?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I've already started there, and I consider myself more Dutch than American, as controversial as it may sound.
No, I don't think it is either. Tell us about your Dutch background and why do you feel that way?
Well, my mom is completely Dutch. My dad is half Dutch. His mom was completely Dutch, is completely Dutch. So that makes me 3/4. You know, most of my family lives there. I've spent a great deal of time there. I go and visit almost every year, or every year at least once. And I just feel comfortable there. Still working on the language stuff, but we're getting there.
So it really is an honor then, without a doubt. I mean, it's more than just running for a country. It's running for your heritage, your family tree, your genealogy.
Yeah, exactly.
Oosting will be attending Stanford on a scholarship this fall. You know, I raced against Oosting a couple years ago, and he's no joke. He's pretty fast.
Well, you know, he is younger than you are.
Well, that'll do it for us here in Studio A. I'm Michael Cerullo.
And I'm Eleni Kaminas. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next week.
You can always check out our latest segments and newscasts on the web at acmi.tv/news. And don't forget to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at ACMi News. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. You'll find us at youtube.com/ACMi News. If you have any news tips for us or wish to become a citizen journalist, we'd love to hear from you. Email us at news@acmi.tv or stop by ACMI Studio A at 85 Park Avenue.
This is Lou Grant, the guy that used to play Lou Grant. And anytime I'm in Arlington, Massachusetts, I read and look at ACMi because they keep me seemingly intelligent.